did all that. It could have taken like days to do all that.
How many days have you been here?
Yeah, it looks pretty big for 20 days.
3 days.
But he did it much quicker. He started in the morning. It took about 20 hours to get here.
I mean, this is the perfect place to paint.
He was here for 7 hours. Sorry. 7 hours.
Right. How come I didn't see him here when I came here? Do you?
Yeah.
I saw him.
Like over there, it's not.
I saw him. He's just there. I tripped over him.
Good, I think you got it. Yeah, that's good.
Well, I could try to paint in the middle.
I have faith in you. I'm just, it's
4 years of art classes and you can paint inside a circle.
Yeah. You can paint down there. Yeah, don't go any further out here.
So you're gonna paint this in one day?
I really just want to share the magic, and everyone is so beautiful and creative by nature that when we get together and we create art together as a community, it has a very profound and powerful effect for everyone. And that kind of behavior is the direction that our evolution is going in. I have great appreciation for the artists within everyone, and I'm just so honored to be here in this time with all of these creative beings that are synchronically coming together to create a new vision for humanity.
In the modern world, a lot of painters are painting for cathartic reasons. They're trying to get, they've had certain experiences and they're trying to express that. Or they're painting something that deals with their own, is personal art in general is what a lot of people are doing. And I'm not so interested in that. What I've done is I've consciously collected information and spoken with people from what are called primitive civilizations to go back to a time when art is meant to be functional, when art is meant to have communal function of empowering the people, protecting them, inspiring them, and being an active part of their life, and something that's not purely from the artist, but is a more impersonal work that is meant to give the viewer a kind of feeling. But what's really important is an understanding of our personal ability to craft our own magical world. And if more art was around like that, and I say that in terms of music, literature, whatever, if there was more out there that was able to reveal to us our own internal potential and our own wisdom, then that could really change culture, change the world. I think people should try to do what they can to stop their internal censors from stopping them from expressing however, and just go for it. Don't think about it in terms of trying to sell something. Don't think about it in terms of what other people are going to say or do. Just express for yourself and just try to be as honest and as open as possible, and just be free. Just be in the moment in your expression. And when you can do that, I think you're doing something great. And not just something great for yourself, but something great for the world. And I think if more and more people did that, we'd be contributing to a positive planet.
The image work I do, it's, I feel like it's something that comes through me. It's almost like a channeling. It's like, sometimes I feel like I'm just the vehicle, and, this this the vehicle to express some things that need to be expressed, and part of it's just kind of opening up to the creative process and letting it flow through, and kind of stepping out of the way, and letting the energy flow. So so that feels like a lot of the image work I do are almost like messengers that come through me, and there's a creative process involved, and they happen, and then I release them. They go out into the world and they do their magic. They're almost like spells. Yeah, people frequently tell me that the Cosmic Tribe Tarot, which is a project that I created, has just been an amazing tool. It's a tool of divination, and that's pretty powerful to create something at that level that is interwoven in the collective consciousness to a point where people are using it as a tool of divination, as a process of deciding what direction their life's going to move in. That's a lot. And I think that's what visionary art is about. It's kind of bypassing our daily existence and putting us in tune with a deeper connected spiritual awareness that gives our daily lives more depth and more meaning. Waking people up to a deeper level, to a realization that the world we live in is a complicated place where our connection to spirit and nature and each other are supremely important. Visionary art has been happening for centuries. Tibetan tankas and Indian iconography, Hindu iconography, deities that are represented, in paintings and statues are just amazing. That's been a big influence in my work. I mean, these are all aspects of the divine that they're giving human form to, which is a lot about what visionary art is. Translating your experience of spirit, the divine, into a visual vocabulary that people can understand and relate to.
I am doing what I call totemic portraits. I'm taking a certain likeness of a person, and based on that I am extracting or manifesting that person's spirit, or I'm creating a totem. And I have observed that once a totemic portrait is done, that a certain transformation occurs in a person. They begin to see themselves in a very different light. They begin to see themselves as mythological divine beings, or at least they begin to see that there is that aspect of them. And here it is, it's present, it's depicted, it's visualized. The visionary art in its nature, it's derived from, you might call it a spiritual experience, or you might call it an entheogenic journey or a shamanic journey. But its source is divine. Its source is the magical vibration of the universe. So my hope for visionary art is that it is gonna change the description of reality, that people will begin to see reality not as a market economy, but as a magical, divine play of energy and spirit.
Well, the one thing I've discovered with art is that it somehow is able to penetrate through the veiling, like, walls of our ego that sort of identify ourselves with, like, you know, who we think we are and things. And art and music and vibrational tools like that, using color and sound, seem to be able to penetrate through that. And wielding that, you're able to sort of intentionalize and crystallize those intentions through the art form, you know, and using, you know, sacred designs. And, you know, I like to use a lot of patterns that are based on nature because it connects us all. And by doing so, you're able to, like, get deep into, like, the cellular level of somebody's being. And that's where the change needs to be initiated, like, deep on that level, so it can manifest itself on the exterior. And so we can start to behave accordingly to the ways that we, like, experience, you know, more of a spiritual level of reality. And I think art is one of the most powerful tools for catalyzing that, because, like, it works in our visual field and we can just take it in all at once and it can do its work without us even, like, being conscious of it, you know. It's hard to explain concepts to people and things with words because we are easily able to sort of, like, you know, dodge away from them. But with art and things like music, you're sort of forced in a way of, like, contemplating, like, exactly what's going on in there. And even if you're not, you know, it's sort of doing the work regardless, you know, just by exciting all the little, you know, subatomic particles in every cell of your body, you know, just by observing it and sort of connecting with it with your senses. And, you know, I think through that individual change, you know, like with art, I think, you know, it's just a matter of time before the, you know, the critical mass of consciousness breaks free, you know, and I think it just needs to start on that individual level. And art, I feel, is the strongest, like, tool in which to, like, you know, catalyze that change that's just so necessary right now on our planet. And I think it's important that the arts sort of demonstrate that. And I think visionary art, this movement that's happening, is all based on that. It's pretty much cosmic impulses that are coming through that really need to be seen, and filtering out of certain artists that are being able to tune into those frequencies. And it seems to be a much higher force that's wanting to, like, come through. And it's just a matter of us all to, like, you know, channel it through our arts as a means to activating other artists and other musicians and other, you know, creators to, like, do what they can do to tap into that source and to share that. So it works sort of like a mycelial web of interconnected, like, visions that all are connected to a source that's, like, coming from, like, some sort of galactic core that's, like, you know, sending impulses down during this transformative time on the planet Earth, you know, that we're all part of. You know, it's like a lot of souls are coming back, you know, to do their work here on this planet, and they're all meeting each other and they're all, like, activating each other, and it's really exciting to just witness it, you know, and feel like, you know, we're a part of it.
The common denominator of, you know, reflection that I receive from people when I put it out there is just, like, the familiarity that people have with what I'm creating. There's, like, a, you know, a bass resonant frequency of people's experiences in some, you know, hyper psychedelic dimensions that, you know, they're impressed with the accuracy of what they've experienced in their own personal journey that's played out in what I'm doing, you know, and that just, like, it really impresses me to be able to tap into the same place, but, you know, be able to convey it in my artwork. I just feel like there's a tremendous service there, and being able to just, like, anchor something in time and space that is a really, you know, commonly experienced vision. You know, as far as the experience that I have with people's reflections and how people experience my work and how much reflection I have and how common some of these visions that I'm bringing through, and, you know, people come to me and say that they saw the exact same thing, you know, exactly. I just get it all the time. I should, like, you know, put a printout of all these messages that people put on my website of, like, you've given me, you know, such detailed accounts of experiences that they had with this being, you know. I feel that, like, with a lot of these visionary artists, it's like, you know, we're interpreting something that is a commonly shared experience, but there's, You know, there's certain tools and mediums and that are allowing for it to come through in an accurate portrayal. You know, it's like hyper-realism, you know, of hyperdimensional states. I feel like there's levels of, you know, the subject matter in a lot of these artists' work that is, you know, it's written in our cellular memory, it's written in our genetic memory, you know, a lot of the symbols and things, you know, so there's a way that I feel it's really, it's like the collapsing of the dimensional planes, you know, into, you know, we're evolving towards this understanding of multidimensionality, that we're not just the slicing into 3 planes of, you know, dimensional reality, but we are all that is. We are the entire spectrum of all that is. We're only experiencing subjective reality through these, you know, through 3D. And so, it's like with a lot of these visionaries, for me anyway, it's just like a deep reminder that, you know, that we are so much more than we could ever possibly imagine ourselves to be. And we want to expand our consciousness and be able to step out of the limited framework of, you know, dense 3D and see our divinity selves.
Visionary art has, within the experience, actually it does have a boundary. Even though within it it's infinite, it is still within the realms of imagery, and this imagery can continue to reveal the most exquisite treasures of the soul, the most exquisite revelations, and more glorious aspects of beauty can be expressed in this. But it's always with the intent, I think at the highest level of what visionary art is, and it always, you know, points towards the spiritual intent. And with new technology, you're seeing that dimension expand into new areas and new complexities. And what I feel is that new mediums will develop which will take these ideas and animate them into new kind of experiences. I think we will begin to, as human beings, be able to integrate into the medium somehow, and to be able, you know, visionary artists in the future will be able to craft experiences, and these experiences, which will be sensory immersion experiences of the art, which will be fully animated through sound, music, animation, and it will take on a new depth. It will be like the difference between mono and stereo sound. It will take on a new dimension of experience. To me, it's like our bodies have this energy, and to me the energy is sexual, and the archetype is Eros. Eros, the energy of Eros is the energy to unite, this union of energies. And so the way, for example, the female form in my paintings, I sort of look at, in a sort of Jungian sense, as being an aspect of my soul, of my psyche. And the sort of marriage between psyche and Eros. The life itself is sensual. Its movement is like a serpentine line. It's got this rhythmic movement, and that rhythm is sensual. And so the movement of my paintings have this flowing movement, and that's a sensual line, sensual movement, and it's related to Eros. It's related to the energy, the power of life, the power of creation. One painting in particular, Unio Mystica, which has these hands coming down and caressing the face and almost lifting the person to a new dimension of birth or rebirth, or, you know, obviously a healing touch. And I've been contacted by quite a few people who are in the healing business and who identify with that image. And people who have had traumatic episodes and feeling somehow that image is very healing for them. It gives them comfort, and they identify with the figure.
Well, visionary art is expression of the glimpses into the visionary world, and all the world's sacred cultures, from the indigenous to the sort of well-known wisdom traditions, have a relationship in their sort of primary religious experience of contact with this visionary world. And all the angels and these helper beings from, you know, the Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, Jewish traditions, all these various traditions have a relationship with this higher dimensional reality. And all spiritual life is built around this connection, the connection between sort of our mundane material plane of reality and a transpersonal, transcendental domain. The intention is to plant a seed that will catalyze their own spiritual path, however that will manifest. And so the artworks try to point toward a transfigured understanding and view of reality, where we are seen as multi-dimensional beings. Both the physical guts and bones and blood and things of our physical existence are acknowledged, but then the light of consciousness that interpenetrates all of our cells and activates us is indicated, and then there are symbols that point to a higher dimensional reality that is, to my mind, flowing through us and acting through us. And so I would hope that people might see a multi-dimensional reality, explored mostly two-dimensionally because I'm a painter. And so you might get a sense of how you're operating also on many different levels at the same time. There are many different levels of being that comprise who we are, rather than just as physical beings. So I think that by contemplating those kind of images, there's a subtle body work that can happen. Art can interact archetypally with your unconscious. We know how the mind is involved in healing, and so by promoting pictures of health, healing, our own sort of template of archetypal health, then by projecting those images through the mind of the viewer, they're taken on and do perform some kind of subtle body work.
It's kind of like I became myself, and I didn't intend to become myself, I just automatically did it. I've always been kind of interested in making stuff, so I didn't really like sit down and go, well, I intend to make art. I more like started making art, and after a while I realized that I could use my themes, or what I was thinking about, I could express my thoughts as the intention. The making of the art just came automatically. But so the intention is more like, if I'm addressing a certain theme, what is it that I intend to convey to somebody? And that varies with different pictures. I have different themes. I guess when I first realized I had the ability to do this stuff, my intention was to kind of tweak people's consciousness or expose them to something shocking and new that would shake them up a little bit. Take people out of their frame of reference, or cause them to laugh or something. So just kind of something that was different. And what would that be? Well, it could be all kinds of things. And after a while, I realized that maybe I could, modify their thinking a little bit by what it was I was exposing them to. And after a while, I kind of realized that, well, this is a certain kind of special magical power, that if I can actually, stimulate people's thoughts along certain directions, then I have a choice of where I might want to lead them. And so I decided that it was better to figure out some positive places to take everybody instead of dead ends or negativity or dwell upon my personal problems or anything like that. That it would be better to look for the things that everybody's universally trying to discover for themselves and express my thoughts in those areas and see what came out and if people could relate. You know, on the personal ego level, you could think, wow, I'm making this really cool thing. It's going to shatter the earth and warp our culture in all these great positive directions, and a whole new world will be reborn. But on the other hand, artists have been thinking that stuff, you know, since they started. So has anything really changed? Well, yeah, probably. And I think that art does affect culture. It's part of the culture. If people relate to it, they preserve it and keep it around over the generations so that, you know, it enters into the culture and becomes part of how we think. So I figure through the use of imagery, I can maybe stimulate people to think about what's going on in the world today rather than, you know, shouting at them from a street corner or handing them out literature or trying to organize some kind of verbose campaign. I figured I would do it with imagery. And it's working out okay, because I can multiply the images and people can send them and get them to whoever they think should actually see or get the idea I'm trying to express. So it's kind of a propaganda project in the sense that we can send my note cards of my political images, say, to the White House, you know, or to the head of Enron or whoever we want. We can assault them with imagery rather than, you know, physically assault them. And hopefully it will make a little alter people's perception about what's going on in the world a little bit and wake people up. You know, I like to think I'm gonna, like, you know, hit them over the head with a 2x4 to wake them up. Only the 2x4 is art instead of a piece of wood. I think it works better. Yeah, I think art has a lot of healing energy and can affect people's thinking a lot. That's pretty well known with people who teach art in prisons or as a therapy for people with mental problems or even people that are recovering from physical illnesses. Often the making of art will put them in a healthy frame of mind so their healing process takes place faster. And psychically, I think art is very powerful for healing. A lot of times people kind of like visiting a psychologist or psychiatrist where you express your thoughts to them and they mirror it back to you in some way that you can get something out of. I think artwork does that as well. People can go into an image and find something personal that speaks to them and take it back out and take it into their heart and have it help them with their daily life. I try to look, in my own life, I try to think about what it is, you know, where happiness derives from. What are the things that, as humans, really please us and make us feel good about ourselves and in general and about the world and everything. And I've come to the conclusion that most of those things are natural elements. You know, a bird singing or seeing a tree or a beautiful lake or a sunset or the ocean. These things always have a calming and pleasing tendency to us. And, you know, our modern world, we've pretty much wiped nature out and paved it over. And a lot of people live in an urban environment where a tree is a thing that grows, you know, in a pot on the street corner that dogs pee on. And that's about all they know about them. And yet, these are the things that please our souls. We grew, you know, we evolved out of nature and it lived in the jungle and forest and grasslands for millennia. And naturally, those things are where our souls reside. And so everybody, I think, yearns for that closeness with nature and feeling not separated. And in our modern society, we're very separated. You know, we go to the grocery store, everything's wrapped in plastic. All our food is processed, and everything is transported by large vehicles that are machines that roll on synthetic roads, and all this stuff is just more detachment from the natural world. So it takes us away from one of our sources of happiness. So in a lot of my images, I try to evoke that feeling of being there in nature and being around the things that please us most. And what are those things? You know, love and friendship, and you know, having a full belly on a warm day. Really simple things are what pleases, but in our modern society, of course, we're worrying about, you know, who's going to win the contest on TV and what the politicians are doing, you know, with the money they're stealing and all this stuff we get all wrapped up in that really has no basis in reality. And so I try to evoke the stuff that is more real to me than the world as we've made it.
There's so much to it and so much to be said about the condition that we find ourselves in right now. You know, it's always in my mind that as humanity, as a collective, that we've imprisoned ourselves with our creations, with our culture, instead of liberating ourselves. And so we find ourselves in a dream and in a nightmare of our own creation. And we don't know we've created this, or we half know and we half don't know. We feel like we have no control over it. And we do. We do have ultimate control over all of this. And we've just forgot. And a lot of us play dumb and play like we have no control. And then we have forces that manipulate it to control people and to have access to power. And that's very sad. You know, I have a feeling, of course, I'm connecting, and there's many people who are aware and who are using their energy to reveal the illusion to everyone, and to hopefully the people that are ready will see it and participate in the transformation of ourselves into remembering and recognizing that we have the power to use our imaginations for the good in an incredible way to help us progress into the future without destroying ourselves, because certainly where we're at now is in a mode of self-destruction. Where our culture is at now is a mode of self-destruction. But certainly within us is the seed of breaking that all down.
At a certain level, the idea that this world, this reality is functioning as some sort of free market or economy, it is absurd. This is, you know, it's a fairy tale, it's a mythological story that's emerging and developing at all times. You know, money and cars and, you know, all those buildings, they're just utilitarian tools for our everyday survival, but they are not the underlying cause, they're not the reason for us to be here. The reason for us to be here is to create this divine fairy tale, this divine myth, to live it out, to manifest it with every breath and every word and every deed and every image and every sound.
Well, it would be really nice if suddenly it would dawn upon the consciousness of everybody that the future of humanity lies in preserving nature and knowing how to live together in harmony rather than fighting and fussing and competing for everything. And the realization that we live in a very small little ball floating in a big empty space, and that there's really we're not going to be able to like get off it and go live on another planet anytime soon. It's not really feasible. So we're going to have to like adopt the attitude of taking care and managing the stuff we have rather than just using it up. We're going to have to, you know, we're living on an island here. It's like the old Polynesians on Easter Island. When they cut down their last tree, their culture died and they couldn't leave their little island. They cut down their tree, the soil washed away, they didn't have any wood to build a boat to go to the next island with, so they starved to death and died out. And using that metaphor, since we're supposedly intelligent and do understand what happened to these other people, we should avoid falling into the same situation on a grandiose scale with our little planet. So how do we change our consciousness to automatically assume that caring for each other and the planet and for nature and all the creatures is our job, you know, to preserve humanity? How do we get everybody to take that attitude? I don't know. I'm hoping, well, I make my art hoping to provide a little impetus in that direction. But I think it's everybody has to make, hopefully the 100th monkey principle will kick in sometime soon and more people will wake up to this idea. I'd say a good thing to do would be get rid of all religion and all politics, and we'd all be a lot happier.
I think that it's critical, though, as we evolve, to start recognizing a more world kind of civilization, a planetary community, that how can we expand and embrace people who are very different, people from different traditions, people with different sort of mindsets and worldviews and things like that. How do we become more integrative and inclusive and things in our own heart to make room for that community to exist? Surrender to love. The logic is infallible, because you've got to love yourself in order to love anyone else and to love the world. Surrender to love. Physiology is theology, isn't it? It's
I would say don't be afraid to shine. Don't be afraid to excel. Don't be afraid to live your dream and to be who you really want to be. When you're able to do that, you inspire others to do that. You don't even know who you're inspiring or how you're inspiring them to do that. But more and more, the world will be better for that.
Just pass on. Don't be afraid to, innovate, bump it up a notch, let go of your, sense of, apprehension at what you would choose to do creatively because of what others might think, because that's the space where, when that veil of limitation is dropped, that's a big one, I think, for, willingness to let go of what other people think of you and just bring the core essence of your being through, no matter how absurd or dark or light or, it may be, just let it come through,
Well, basically all I want to say is be courageous, be honest. First of all, before yourself. There are really no rules at all. In painting, in life, in lifestyles, in thinking, in anything. The only condition is being honest and being courageous. Don't bring any harm to the world. Your intent should be pure. That's my message.